A major development in the race to replace disgraced Congressman Trey Radel tonight. A Fox 4 investigation grinding the District 19 campaign to a halt tonight. Just 2 weeks from the day of the special Republican primary, 3 of the 4 GOP candidates are joining forces to address concerns raised by Foreigner Corner investigator Warren Wright. The campaigns of State Senator Lizbeth Benequisto, Michael Drycorn, and Paige Kriegel releasing a joint statement saying, quote, "Now more than ever, we stand together to put politics aside to address some very serious questions that have been raised in this race as candidates for the United States Congress. But more importantly, as parents and members of this community, there is no greater priority than protecting our children from the violent predators who target them." Recent news reports have brought into question Kurt Clawson's relationship with a violent child rapist in Utah. He's dismissed these news reports as politically driven, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Benequisto, Drycorn, Kriegel, all joining community leaders and law enforcement officials tomorrow in Fort Myers to address concerned citizens and the media. Foreigner Corner will, of course, be there, and we'll bring you the very latest in this bombshell development. Turning now to the man who broke the story on Friday, Warren Wright. And Warren, you're learning even more detail tonight about the relationship between Clawson and this convicted pedophile, as well as that house in question in Utah.
That's right, Emily. Well, I've been doing some more digging into the house in question where Glenn Borst lived, a house owned by Kurt Clawson.
Here's what we've uncovered. Just days before Kurt Clawson filed to run for the U.S. Congress, he sold this property in Utah. The location, 2237 South Chestnut Circle, Saratoga Springs. It's unclear how long Glenn Borst has lived in this house. Clawson has been vague in describing their relationship and how well they know each other. But this is what we do know. When Clawson first purchased the home in 2009, the market value was listed by Utah County Online as $223,000. In January of 2014, Clawson and his company, Rewired CEO, sold this house for $239,900. Apparently, he sold it in a hurry. It was listed on January 21st, and a buyer submitted a contract the very next day. And it appears Clawson sold the home well below market value. This public record realty report shows the current estimated value at $302,000. That's nearly $70,000 more than he got for the house. In filing to run for Congress just days after selling the home, Clawson never listed this property on his list of assets. And while his campaign office said it was a rental property, Clawson never listed any rental income from it. Meanwhile, Glenn Borst, a convicted pedophile, a man guilty of raping and sodomizing a girl under the age of 13, was allowed to live in this 3-car garage, 3-bedroom, and 2-bath house. In fact, Clawson's campaign manager told me last week Borst did not pay rent. He, quote, stayed there between renters, end quote.
All right, so a lot of questions obviously remain tonight, Warren. And again, it's not just about that rental property in question. You're learning more about the actual relationship, which has really been brought to light here, between Borst and Clawson. What are you finding there?
Okay, well, Emily, here's what's interesting. The Clawson campaign's answer to that question has changed since I first asked them.
I'm Kurt Clawson.
At first, it was all smiles, and now it's press releases, attacking the media and blaming his opponents. When asked by the Naples Daily News if there was anything in his present or past that would embarrass him and affect his ability to serve the community, he said this.
Everybody has a personal life, but no, the answer is no. In my case, no.
I asked Clawson's campaign about his relationship with convicted sex predator Glenn Borst last week. This was the response last Wednesday. Quote, Kurt purchased a house in 2006 in Utah, and this person's wife was the realtor and power of attorney was granted in order to handle the transaction. They rented the house for Kurt as an investment property, and he later lived there with a couple of other tenants when it wasn't being rented. On Friday, Clawson's campaign manager corrected the email response and said it was not Glenn Borst's wife that was retained as power of attorney, but Glenn Borst himself. He went on to say their relationship was just that of a landlord and a renter. Then on Saturday, Kurt Clawson makes an appearance on the Charlie Whitehead talk radio show. Clawson had this to say.
This is somebody I did a deal with. It was not a person close to me, not a person I've talked to in probably years. I don't even remember.
Then on Monday, we learned Clawson and Borst knew each other as children, but the campaign wouldn't elaborate on their relationship.
So there are questions if Clawson should have listed this house in his financial disclosure form. Some argue that if there was no rental income, it shouldn't apply. Then that might lead you to think that Clawson allowed Borst to live there for free.
All right, so at last check, Glenn Borst was non-compliant with law enforcement as far as registering his address as a sex offender. Do we know anything about his whereabouts at this time?
Okay, well, Emily, not yet. We'd like to ask Glenn Borst about his relationship with Kirk Clawson, but we can't find him. And neither can the Utah Police Department in charge of keeping track of him. The state of Utah tells us Borst has contacted them and says he didn't realize he was supposed to register in March, but he has not come in to register yet. We'll keep you posted on Borst's status, and we'll keep trying to get answers from him just for you.
All right, so again, a lot of questions. Great work on this, Warren, and we want your take on this as well, if you have a second. Do you share the concern of GOP candidates here, law enforcement and community leaders, about Kirk Clawson's relationship with the convicted pedophile Glenn Borst? So do you think their joint statement is purely political? What is their motive here? Give us a call with your thoughts on this, 239-206-FOX4.